Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we've got Ashley, owner of Alchemist Kava in Naples, Florida, joining us to discuss what competition really means in a rapidly growing industry, much like the kava bar industry. I am so excited to dive right in and learn more, so let's get right to it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I have been a big fan of your podcast for some time now.
Oh, stop it. I've been a big fan of you, and I just cannot wait to dive right into these questions. So,
Awesome. Let's do it.
I am really excited. Let's start right off the bat. What was your very first kava bar experience?
So when I was in college, I had known what kava and kratom were. I had never actually been in a kava bar until 2017. So down in Southwest Florida, they started to emerge around that time. And I had gone to one that was like about a town away from where I live in Naples. And I just quickly fell in love with it. I fell in love with the community aspect. I fell in love with the drinks. And, it was passion since then.
Mm, that's so amazing. Now, I gotta be real. When you had your first cup of kava, did you like it? Like, as in, of course, the feeling is delightful, but like, what was your first ex like? What did you feel the first time you had it? Like, did you have a mocktail or did you have it straight up?
So I went in head first and had it the root plant in its bare and its natural setting. And I will definitely tell you it is an earthy flavor that you have to be prepared for. Now, having been drank it for several years, I'm quite used to it and I actually enjoy the flavor. But I definitely think it's if you don't explain it to customers or, explain to them how it works, how the flavor is going to be, it can be a little bit of a shock for a person the first time they drink it. It's we jokingly describe it as mud water amongst ourselves, but obviously you don't want to advertise it as so to a customer. You want you would be like, ma'am, sir, would you like a little bit of cinnamon? Would you like some creamer with it? And sort of enhance that first time that experience with a bula or the kava shell.
Mm, very, very good point. I remember my very first experience. I had no one gave me the heads up. They're just like, try the thing. Luckily, I had a little pineapple wedge on the side of my cup, so I had that as kind of like a little chaser, which was so perfect. But yeah, the first time, anybody has kava, like I love asking that story right off the bat because, you really know no one really knows what they're diving into right away unless you're a very well researched person, which typically we research things after we find out about them the first time, not before. So, all of that being said, I think it's really cool that one experience can lead you to a life-changing destiny of like opening your own kava bar. So, please tell us, Ashley, what's the story from that first kava shell to opening of your kava bar?
Absolutely. So in Naples, we have we're growing as far as kava bars go, and so I believe the first one opened in early 2020 down here in Naples, Florida, and it had already been emerging on the other side, the other coast of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, Miami, so it had been exposed there. But when we saw, it starting to grow down this way, it was really cool to have another scene in the area where people could go and socialize and not necessarily have to be drinking. And so my husband and I frequented quite a few of these different bars and we enjoyed it. I even did social media for one of the bars. And then at some point I realized because most of the bars are concentrated in North Naples. And so if you're not familiar with Collier County, where Naples is located, it's a massive county. And so we would go from where we live in North Naples and drive to Marco Island to see my in-laws. And there was nothing along the way there. And we realized that, let's try to bring it to the other side of Collier County. And we're the only bar right now on the east side of of Naples. And it's been great. It's been awesome because I actually grew up in this town. I grew up in East
Oh,
Naples. Yeah. I never thought I'd still be here, but I'm appreciative that I am just because, I get to make connections with people. And, Naples, if you hear the name, it's often associated with being affluent, and it is definitely an affluent area, but there's a whole working side of the town, and that primarily people associate that with East Naples. And so it's great to bring this to people that maybe wouldn't have otherwise been exposed on the north side of town to, the kava bar scene. And so we've such a growing community down here, and it's a great place for people who are, in the food industry to have a place to come and chill after they get off of work, but they don't necessarily want to be around people that are drinking.
Oh, that is such a good point. And so cool that you found this specific part of the market that was underserved. This whole past weekend, my husband and I, our version of relaxing is watching things like Hell's Kitchen and Bar Rescue, as if we don't get enough in our daily lives of like helping people with and talking to bars. And, in that what we realized was we just couldn't help but to watch and notice that like when they weren't actively cooking in the kitchen, like when they were at that behind the scenes part where they're all like, just living their lives, talking to their teammates, the behind the scenes stuff, they always had a drink in their hand and they're always smoking cigarettes on the patio,
Yeah.
which is something we know. I grew up in the food service and service industry in general, and it was everywhere. You can't, it's almost one of those things where like I can't tell you how many times working at Fazoli's or like working at there were a few different like kava and tea bars I worked at throughout the years, and it was fun. It was ridiculous how many people picked up like certain habits at different places just because that's what your coworkers do. So when I worked food, people picked up, yeah, you're drinking after work to have a bonding experience. People would literally start smoking cigarettes just so they could take a little bit longer time when they took the trash out so they didn't have to go in the dining room, right? And then
Yeah,
I
no,
remember, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, for sure. I used to bartend, so I know that feeling.
Right? It's crazy how, like, even if it's something that wasn't on your radar, all of a sudden it's on your radar because everybody's doing it at work. And no matter what your work is, there's always some sort of vice. So, like, as I moved through different industries, um, I noticed that was just the case, and that's kind of what led me to like leave everything that I did to get a job in a kava bar because I was so sick of that being the thing when I was personally looking for sobriety. And people they don't smoke the same things at kava bars. They don't drink the same things either. So you have this totally different environment. And that being said, I'm not even saying that it's a one-to-one relationship, right? Because there's so many different herbs and so many different things we can do. So, all of that being said, it leads me to the question of your name. You chose Alchemist Kava Bar. Why? That's such a cool name.
You. I really appreciate that. So prior to opening the bar, while I was helping another bar do their social media, I was also a history teacher. So I was a history teacher for nearly 10 years. I taught at the middle and high school levels, and I fell in love with, like the Middle Ages, the medieval periods, and essentially alchemy was the precursor to chemistry. So we'll hear like we call our drinks elixirs, and that's really common of other bars as well. So it's sort of like we like to think of ourselves as chemists. We're, behind the bar, going back to basics, using plants in their natural state to help people find alternatives to connect. And so I really like the name Alchemist Kava to, you know, pro like as an intro into the story of our bar and our menu.
It's so cool because it automatically, even without seeing your branding, anything, it automatically puts me into this like state of mind. And there was a few episodes a few episodes ago, I interviewed Charlotte from Leyline Labs, and we talked a lot about the history of the pharmacy and how, back in the 60s is when the pharmacy really changed. But before that, it was more of an apothecary. Things were made for you. They were compounded in the pharmacy, and that's a very expensive process. It's a very tedious process compared to what the modern day process is. And all of that being said, I feel like it's a great metaphor for a kava bar because oftentimes, unlike other menus of perhaps like, you go to Sonic, right? You don't care what's in, you don't want to know what the ingredients are in your drink, but you want a slushy that tastes like cherry lime or something. When you're at a kava bar, you want to be focused on also what the effects are, right? If not alcohol, what is it? And that experience, that idea of this like alchemy occurring behind the scenes, it automatically draws you in, and it automatically like it's great. And it makes me bring me to my next question. What was it like for you to design a menu, having this historical background, wanting this alchemist vibe? How did that play into not only the drink selections you have, but like how you name them and how you describe them on your menu?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, when we looked at opening the Kava Bar, we had an existing Kava scene in Southwest Florida, but I wasn't necessarily just trying to draw people in that were a part of the scene. Our mission was to appeal to people that had maybe never been to a Kava Bar, weren't really exposed to botanical elixirs, weren't aware of what kratom or kava were. And so, in order to attract them, you have to be a little thoughtful with how you map out your menu, how you map out your bar, and the education component to it. So for us, when I went into making the drinks, I grew up with a father for a chef. I worked in the food industry prior to becoming a teacher, and I had a passion for flavor palettes and how to put things together, and generally being like a foodie and caring about the taste and quality of ingredients. So when I thought about all of our drinks, I wanted to make sure I tied in some, names to the drinks that embody the drinks and also tell you a story of alchemy. So, like, for example, we have a drink called the Marigold. And, you think of Marigold, you think of orange, you think of yellow, and the Marigold is a drink that we make with pineapple, mango, orange, and then kratom. And so marigolds are supposed to be in history, they're courageous, they're bold, they're supposed to be, strength, and sort of just tying that concept of what it symbolized during the period of alchemy into the drink, and just sort of having an association with why each drink was named something. We have a drink called the Philosopher's Stone, and I know a lot of people will think of Harry Potter, but the Philosopher's Stone was actually, they believed it to be a substance during the period of alchemy that were going to help people be immortal, have strength, and so we think of it with three different components to it because if you look on our website, our Instagram page, we have some reels of the history behind drinks, and that we have three of our house-made simple syrups in that specific drink, the Philosopher's Stone, that are supposed to align with the three different ideas that alchemists believe the Philosopher's Stone gave them. So, everything was sort of tied in, and it took a while for us to make our menu, but I wanted it to have a purpose and I wanted it to have a story. So, sometimes I think our customers might not even know it yet, but once we did that little education piece on our Instagram about why each drink is named what it is, I think a lot of people were surprised at the thought that went behind it.
I love that. It's like marigold. It sounds like such a simple thing. Oh, it's named that because it's yellow. Oh no. Oh no. Those who want to look deeper and find that deeper meaning can find it, but also those who aren't here for the depth right now and they're just trying to get through their day and they just want a good drink, they also
Yes.
know exactly what they're ordering. It's genius. I love that. What's your favorite drink on your menu?
I'm a big lover of the dark matter, and the dark matter is a pomegranate, lime, raspberry. I really enjoy that one. That one's probably my,
Mm.
and then, but our best sellers are lapis, which is lavender, and then it's made with our house-made blueberry and blackberry syrups with lemonade. And so, that's definitely a staple. We make quite a few of those every day, and people seem to not get sick of it, which is really nice. It's really cool that people are drawn into our menu, and not necessarily as much as we love working with third party vendors. They actually come in for our drinks, which is great.
Yeah, that is great. Great for so many reasons, especially because that means you have more quality control over the like experience that they're having. And, when it comes to having like you can have all the most amazing ideas on planet Earth about your menu and you can have the best recipe, but if you don't have great, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is like you have so much control because you can choose every ingredient in it and
Yeah.
you can make sure you're not trying to create a something that's has mass appeal that can last forever. You can make a very delicate drink that can be served right away and enjoyed right away in a very special way, but also, you can take them to go too. So all of that
Yeah.
being said, I'm just really curious, what is your selection process in general for finding great ingredients that match the beauty of your menu.
So first and foremost, I hate to use this terminology, but I am a crunchy mom. I have two almost 1 year old, and they're exploring foods, and I'm very aware of what I'm feeding them. I'm very aware. I make the bulk of their food. I'm that organic, clean eating kind of ingredients, and so that has always been with me, and I brought that into the bar. And so I would say like 80 to 90% of our ingredients are organic, as far as our juices, like our mango, our oat, our almond, our lemonade, all of those things, the sugar that we make the simple syrups with, the berries. And so a lot of people don't realize that the kava bar scene is a lot of times people associate it with health. And so you'll find people that aren't necessarily sober, because of any reason other than wanting to be more fit. Because we know alcohol slows you down, adds calories. And so they'll come in, and those are the same people that we want our drinks to appeal to. We want them to understand that like we put as much care and thought into this as they would themselves at home. And so when we're looking at buying our products to make our drinks, we're looking at quality. We're looking at, whether it's good for the environment when we buy it. I really want it to do biodegradable cups, even, but unfortunately, we live in Southwest Florida, and I know you guys probably experience this in Phoenix. So far, when I've tested a lot of these compostable cups, if you leave them in your cup holder, they melt.
Oh yeah.
Uh, so we're pushing reusable cups on a lot of our customers just because we're trying to set that precedence that we care about them, we care about our earth, and what can we do that's best for them. As far as buying our kava and kratom, we make sure that all of our stuff is lab tested. We make sure it's quality. I've had a lot of customers tell me that we don't skimp on the kava and kratom when we make it, which is really flattering. I'm not trying to you know pinch pennies when I'm trying to serve something quality to people, because that in itself will bring people back, and that creates you revenue. So just being thoughtful about that. I even had a customer once tell me like they had read an article online about how kratom has heavy metals in it, and her boyfriend came in and said, "Yeah, we bought a kit and we tested your kratom," and you could see she just looked mortified. And I was like, "No, that's great. I'm so happy you did that." And she's like, "Yeah, it was really clean. Everything was great." I'm like, don't be embarrassed. That's exactly what I want people to know. I was like, preach it to the world if you want. Like, I want people to know that like we care about the quality, we care about the origin, we care about what we're doing, what we're making, and ultimately, we're thoughtful in what we pick to serve in this bar. The same goes with our third party vendors. So I know you spoke with Tessa from Lemonade.
Woo woo.
And yeah, she was just here earlier today. She has some really quality products out there. Her electrolytes. I know she's a small business owner just like myself, and the amount of time and effort and thought that she puts into her business and her product, you can tell when you're drinking it. And so I work with Tessa. I work with a local business called Tortuga. They use organic stevia in their seltzers. And then Tea Time is also another local company, and they have amazing quality service, and they're a small mom, dad and son business that have taken off quite a bit. So, it's just making those community connections, and making sure that you're happy with what you're putting out there into the universe, and making sure that you're doing everything you can to be, a good business owner and business operator.
I love that in this question of ingredients about a drink, there's a holistic answer and a holistic perspective here, because it really is true. Like you can have the greatest ingredients, but if you're not having if your processes aren't set up in a way that are going to be prolific, if you don't have humans who are happy to help you, right? If you don't have the environment for all of this to flourish in, it doesn't matter what's on your recipe card. It doesn't matter what's on your menu if you're not being thoughtful about all of these little details, which is so cool. And I love that you mention it. So that being said, you know, I feel like this is a topic that I never really hear much about. Like, because a lot of, I've listened to like a lot of foodie blogs, foodie things, especially like people who love to go to different restaurants and like see the different beverages, whether it's alcoholic or not. And, in that process, you hear so much about like, oh, okay, so they got these, ingredients from blah, blah, blah. And they tell the stories of all the ingredients of like the physical thing itself. But let's talk about the actual relationships you have to have as a business owner long term, right? With the people who supply the amazing ingredients to match your amazing menu. Oftentimes, especially in emerging like fringe industries that are coming to the mainstream, which is kava, kratom, and really anything non-alcoholic that's functional right now. It's all bursting at the seams, especially since we all just saw that article come out a couple weeks ago. Cannabis passed alcohol in consumption, amazing in like daily consumption in the United States. I think it's amazing, at least.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And it only means that more and more people are going to be coming our way. And that means that we have to like if not that what we've been doing by any means is only dress rehearsal because it's all real and it's all happened. But what I'm saying is the masses are a coming. So that means we have to be solidified with our processes, like our suppliers. We need to understand and really dive deep because the people are coming. The wave is a coming. So, I'm curious, Ashley, what has it been like for you in general from startup to now? Because of course, like, over the course of business things change, but what has it been like for you in finding all of these different ingredients for your menu? Like, I'm sure you've had some amazing experiences and some not so amazing experiences.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when you're a new business owner and anybody that has opened, any kind of small business, you are constantly bombarded with emails and phone calls. Try my product, try this, try that. And so you have to sort of navigate that sphere. You have to be able to, dig through what's, just appealing versus what's actually functional and beneficial. And so I think, we first opened, we're going to be open for a year next month. So we've been open operational for 11 months. And, it's slow and steady wins the race. It's easy to feel panicky when you open a new business and, you're doing well, but it's not to the degree that you were hoping and to get scared. But I think just being true to yourself, being true to your processes, and being able to um, remove yourself from the situation and think about what does the customer want? What should I do on behalf of the customer and not necessarily think about what I want, really can help you to grow your business. And so I think we've seen that in 11 months. I mean, there were evenings where there's probably maybe like five people in the bar, and it was like, hey, we got five people. And now there's evenings where like 4 or 5 times a week, our bar is completely filled in the evenings, and there isn't a seat available. And so I think just like, stick with it and make sure that you're being true to yourself, and make sure that you have a presence with your customers. Make sure that you're relatable and make sure that your employees are happy first and foremost. I mean, I think people that come to places and want to stay at places don't want to be around negativity, and they want to be around positive outlooks, good energy. And I think but you're treating your employees with respect and dignity, and a fair wage really goes a long way with customers and the growth of your business.
I love all the things you mentioned here, and I loved when you said removing yourself because whether it's trying to figure out what the next thing on your menu needs to be, or if you need to change up like some other process that's happening within your bar, maybe your event needs to change or whatever it is, listening, removing yourself and not creating a bar for you, but creating a bar for your community really changes the tone of so many conversations. I know what it's like to have to develop new relationships with suppliers in scary areas. By scary areas, I'm going to define that as kratom is the easiest to say, right?
Yeah.
Because we already mentioned, uh, when you have these botanicals coming in from different countries all over the world with different standards in terms of the manufacturing process, you don't necessarily know the lifetime, the lifespan of that product unless you have like a literal chain of custody, which, excuse me, is a very special, very expensive document that costs a hell of a lot more when you're getting your stuff tested. And
Yep.
when I worked in the lab, there were a few chain of custody cases I did. And mind you, I would do like literally hundreds of samples per day, thousands per week. I can't even, probably millions over the course of my time there. And there, you know how many chain of custodies I've done? Like not that many. Like I'm telling you, like maybe 10 of the like
Yeah.
literal thousands. That's how, first off, expensive, and it pulls me out of the process. So me, one little person in that lab, and mind you, there's like 50 people who intake your samples when you send into any given like big lab, right? And then, if there's 50 intake, just imagine how many scientists and other personnel are in the building. I mean, you're talking like a college campus worth of people working at this establishment, right? So to take one person out of that process to do a chain of custody to where no eyes, like it's so taken care of from start to finish. I mean, that takes significant resources. So this is something I feel like a lot of people kind of maybe don't understand about behind the scenes, and it requires you to be able to ask very specific questions when you're trying to find your supplier. And it's not because, you're like trying to pull the Inquisition on every single person you meet because you just need everyone to prove something to you. It's because you're a business owner and you're dealing in a fringe industry with something that's known to be, a little bit all over the place in terms of quality. So as a business owner, figuring out what relationship to have with people to be able to get that information. I mean, that's the craziest part that I've had to experience to this point because there are some companies who they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, let me answer all your questions. Come on over. You want to come to any, whether it's a manufacturing facility or a farm, the good ones will invite you there and let you look at things and answer your questions. And the bad ones kind of treat you like you're crazy or like you're an asshole or something for asking questions. I'm curious, Ashley, have you ever experienced, trying to find a really high quality ingredient, but then, seeing any sort of, let's talk about both green flags and red flags. So, how do you know what people do you really like? How do you know you can trust a supplier that's going to give you high quality stuff versus the ones that won't?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the amount of times I've walked into the Kava bar and my one of my employees will be like, "Here, it's an unlabeled bag of kratom with doesn't say what strain it is, doesn't say its origins. Like somebody dropped it off and he wrote his name on a piece of paper." I'm like, "Okay." Well, yeah, out of respect, everybody's got to make a hustle, and I totally understand that. And I try to, show respect to every person that comes up to me and tries
Of
to ask me to do
course.
something. But I'll call them back, and like it's like their cell phone. They don't have a warehouse. I'll ask them, like they're like, "Oh, this is made on the other coast of Florida," and I'll be like, "Oh, where's the farm? Oh, I don't know." Like I'm like, okay, well, these are all like red flags. These are all like, if your sales rep is not knowledgeable, doesn't understand really the industry, doesn't care about quality control, that's really disheartening. And then there's other companies that'll be like, absolutely, we'll send over the lab tested results. They're on, in the specific instance, like Kratom, they're part of the American Kratom Association approved list. They cared to go through all these extra measurements. And it's like, I know it can be expensive for little farmers. Like it's sort of like we could look at it like organic certification. There's plenty of organic farms that don't have the USDA money to get certified organic, but at least, those smaller farms should have transparency. And I think it's the same with this industry. This industry for the most part is still very unregulated. We're overseen by the Department of Agriculture in the state of Florida. So we do have, government agencies that we're reporting to make sure everything is quality and up to speed. But as far as the actual stuff itself, there's more regulation on kombucha than there is on this stuff. And so I think it's really important as a business owner in this industry to care about what you're giving your people. I mean, God forbid, someone go out there, buy something, not care, and it's like salmonella, based, you really have to care. You really have to go and do the extra step to make sure you're not, the cheapest is not always guaranteed to be the best. And anyone that has opened a bar before can attest to that.
Mm, amen. That is the truth. And it's cool once we find these products, right? Because you're like, oh my God, I feel like I was searching through yeah, a haystack for a needle. And when you actually get it, it's wonderful because you're helping people, right? So now let's zoom out or zoom back to the kava industry, like kava bar industry, rather than the suppliers, right? So we know that kava and kratom is difficult. Like I don't want to say it's all difficult because, as time goes on, it becomes easier and easier to find the brands that we trust. The reason I bring this up is because we know that this is a difficult thing to find as kava bar owners, right? And we know that the industry is expanding. Now, when we talk about competition in the kava bar industry, which spoiler alert, I don't think there is. But when we talk about it and we talk about, so people are coming to your kava bar and they love your kava bar so much that you literally inspire them to open up another kava bar, maybe on the other side of town, or maybe it's in a different state, but you inspired them to do so. And then they turn around and they're like, hey, where can I get the good stuff? Like, how do I even get this all started? A lot of kava bars up until this point have been so closed off in some places, right? Where, people might give you tiny answers, but they feel compelled to, as some people would say, gatekeep information. But to be honest with you, in the early stages of this industry, you know, it it uh, it feels more understandable as to why some information felt more proprietary not to share because there were very few vendors, there are very few things. I get it when the industry was just brand new born, like happy birthday, right? But I mean, the first kava bar opened in Florida in 2002. We are 20 years into this. We are in a completely different stage where, like I said, that news article came out 2 weeks ago. So we all need to be ready for the flood coming in, which means if anybody's going to be a jackass and not want to share information and allow another kava bar to open with really horrible product that's going to genuinely hurt people, that can lead to, and I'm not exaggerating here at all because we've already seen this happen in other states. We can see kava or kratom be classified next to other things that it shouldn't be. Which there's one state on the East Coast right now, I'm totally blanking, that's trying to, I think it was Massachusetts, maybe, that wanted to schedule kratom, like make it completely illegal. And this kind of thing happens because when you have people who are serving it without education or they're serving bad product, whether they know it or not, this can shut down the entire industry. So not only is it actually in your self-interest, but it's also selfless to be able to share this information, right? And this was a big kind of pain point that really inspired my husband and I to start our business because we were like, whoa, whoa, like there's too much information that's not being shared. And if this keeps happening, all of us are going to get shut down. We're all going to have issues. None of us are going to have something nice anymore. So being
Yeah.
able to be, right? So being in control of this information should be, a responsibility that's really taken seriously. So, that's kind of one of those hills that I'm willing to die on, getting this information out to people, right? I'm curious, in your world, Ashley, with starting a kava bar in an area where there are already some kava bars, but there's definitely room for expansion. Were you met with kind of an openness of information and an openness and helpfulness, or was there like a lot you had to figure out on your own that was, you know, very difficult in any way?
So, the one kava bar in our town, Cosmic Kava, that I had previously helped with social media, I sent the owner, she's a wonderful lady. I sent her a text and I was basically like, hey, look, I'm going to open this bar. I want to do this respectfully. I'm telling you first. And she was so nice about it and so like, good luck. I hope everything works out for you. And I really think that's the spirit that other bars should embody. I'm fortunate in Southwest Florida so far. Everyone has been seemed pretty cool for the most part, but I definitely get like that sort of like competitive feeling from some bars. And I think this is not like you're saying, this is not unique to my situation. But I really strongly, wholeheartedly believe that collaboration and mutual respect can really lift this community. Every bar, like, alcohol bars, they all operate in the same area. And I feel like this is how the kava bar community should start growing. And I really am starting to see that on social media. I have people from the other coast that are like, messaging me being like, "Oh, that's a cool reel," or we're creating their reel, they're creating our reel, on Instagram. And I think that that collaborative nature is really where I want to see this community go. I think there's room for everybody. I really believe it's a beautiful thing that we're all starting. And, I make it a policy at our bar and all of my kava tenders and even my customers, like I don't believe we should ever speak ill of another bar in our setting. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on anybody. So it's just sort of like, if you don't have anything nice to say, then I prefer people not to say it. And, we haven't had any major issues with other bars, but I just don't think, commenting on someone else's operational procedures gonna make the community any better. So we should be focused on like, how are we gonna do that? And so like I said earlier, Tessa from Luminade was here. And, it's nice to be able to speak with someone, we're similar age demographic, we're both, primarily in charge of our operations ourselves. And so it's just nice to be able to have that support to lean on someone. And be able to ask them questions. And, I feel like I do have a community and shoulders to lean on in Naples. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for people realizing that like if we do this together, we can make this like a permanent fixture in people's lives and an alternative to a social scene that a lot of people are in need of because we know about overconsumption of alcohol. We know about the issues that arise from it. And, I think like if we work together, we can really see a difference. We can really see this whole country transform, especially with this younger generation that's, pushing back against like the binge drinking and all of that. I think we can look at them, collaborate and, try to evolve from there.
Yes, I think it's so cool. And when you mention having that openness, the first thing that came to my mind was, I mean, abundance everywhere. It was kind of like a rainbow threw up in my brain. Like, on one hand, of course, the information spread of knowledge, the spread of information and knowledge allows for more people to come into all kava bars. So if kava bar A on the one side of town brings in new people, educates them about kava, and then those people end up on the other side of town, and then they're driving by Kava Bar B. Well, technically, Kava Bar A just did like a bump set spike to help Kava Bar B get a sale there. And Kava Bar B didn't even have to do anything other than exist and, show up on the Google map when those people drove on the other side of town when they normally don't, right? So
Yeah.
that's a great example. But another one I want to mention that I feel if anybody is really worried, like, okay, I hear you guys, like, you guys are making really great points, but like, they're taking away my business and they just keep asking questions and they know I'm nice and I can't help but to give out information or something like that. Because honestly, I hear that feedback from a lot of people because there's a lot of sweet people out there that just aren't like seeing the picture here. And this is what I want to say. Like, if you have a really great product and you're having a really hard time financially, but you do want to spread that information, you know that you already have the business set up so you can be a wholesaler. Like there's ways
Uh-huh.
that you can white label your own. If you don't want to give away the actual source itself, well, you can always become an affiliate too. If you can't white label their product, you can always have these conversations with the company and say, hey, yes, I'm already buying your product for my people and my bar, but now other bars are coming to me. And to me, that's when I feel like if your bar was a video game, like you've leveled up, right? Because people are like, now you're not the new kid on the block. The new kids are asking you for advice. That's when you open up the wholesale section of your website, my friend. You put that
Yeah.
information there.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm going to make 2 points on what you're talking about. First and foremost, like if your identity through your bar is only your, processes, then maybe there has to be reevaluation of how you operate your bar because people should want to come to your bar. I mean, obviously your product should be exceptional, but people should want to come to your bar also for the atmosphere and the environment.
Yes.
And so like you shouldn't be afraid of someone making something similar to you because you're supposed to have your own twist to it. You're supposed to have your own identity with it. And then the second point that I was going to say is like imitation is the best form of flattery. And so, when we opened onto the scene, I'm Mexican and I wanted to bring some of my Hispanic culture into some of our drinks. We have a spicy drink called the Red Lion, which is spicy mango, tahine. It had jalapenos on it. And so we were doing like a tahine rim, which obviously we've seen, margarita bars have been doing that for years. And all of a sudden I'm getting pictures from customers and other people like, oh, look, this bar has this drink now, this bar has that drink. It's like, cool, man, that's awesome. Like, I want people to be able to go somewhere and like there shouldn't be like you stole my idea. And like, no, I mean, if it's the same exact drink with the same exact name, maybe. But if it's something that they put their own flair to it, that's awesome. That's great. Like that means it was a good product and hopefully you can keep it, your signature, but that doesn't mean just because someone else is doing it, it's going to be the end of the world. And I think that that's really where people have to be looking at this. And like all of our stuff, I tried to be original in my concepts just based off of like my own palette and things like that. But I'm never, you know, I'm not arrogant enough to think that somebody's copying me or that I have ownership over a specific idea or concept. Like, I'm like, cool, man, that's awesome. Do it. Like, go for it. Like, and I think, maybe this is the teacher in me and this is the everyone should be nice and kind to each other. But like, I really do think there's room in this community for everybody. Like, we don't have to like out people. Like, we don't have to like make them feel unwanted. I mean, that's the whole premise of a kava bar is this is where like I like a bunch of different people, like our little misfit community comes together and we all care about each other. And that's why the community is such a cool, you know, it's such a cool like center and aspect for people to be able to have camaraderie for each other. And so I think the bar community should do the same thing as we see our customers do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because it's true. Kava is the the herb of connection. It naturally is the thing that's what draws most people to it, whether that connection comes through clarity or through the calmness of the kava. No matter what, that's what we're all here for. And I feel like when that part is kind of lost, the sight is lost, it turns your job from a sort of peaceful, like, oh, like you're going to the Oasis today, who's gonna show up? Like kind of that kid in the candy shop feeling. It turns your job from that into like a almost like you're in survival mode every day. Like, oh my God, look, the enemy over there, look what they're doing. Rah. That sounds exhausting, y'all. Wouldn't you rather be like sipping some yummy drinkies with friends all day?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that sound like the life?
Yeah, and it is cool. Like like that other owner from the bar in town that I said I have a really positive relationship with. Well, we had a Cinco de Mayo party and she came out here and I go to her bar with my kids and bring my sons to go visit her. And it's like that's exactly what we should be harboring in this community. This is what we should be embracing.
Yeah. I love that so much. And all of that being said, we are coming to the end of our episode, which is so sad for now. Who says there's not going to be a part two? But if people want to connect, I'm curious, first off, I actually have two questions for you. Number one, how do people, I'm going to back this up and rephrase this. In your kava bar specifically, what are the types of events or kind of community gatherings that people are really magnetized for specifically the Alchemist Kava Bar?
Absolutely. Events were something that we really looked at when we were opening this bar again, trying to cultivate that environment, that atmosphere, have our own identity. And so on a weekly basis. We have bingo night, we have Magic the Gathering night for the people that love that card game. We have a trivia night where it's old school trivia with a host, paper and pencil. We have a poker night, we have open mic night, we have a sip and paint class called Easels and Elixirs. So we have a bunch of different things going on our monthly calendar, and I think it's great because you don't have to just come necessarily to the bar with a group of people to be able to hang out with. You can come by yourself, participate in an activity, and meet a bunch of new people. And so that's something that we're really happy that we host on a monthly basis.
Yay! And where can we find this information if we want to figure out what day to come to your bar?
Absolutely. So our website, alchemistkava.com. We also post all of our events on Eventbrite. It's nice because Naples is a little bit of a touristy town. So sometimes when people are coming into town, they're looking what to do in the area. And then, a lot of people turn to Eventbrite. So that's an option as well.
Perfect. Is there anything else coming up in the Alchemist Kava Bar or that you're working on that you want us to know about?
So we're just looking to improve and expand our bar. I'm going to start the permit process to building an outside deck, which will be great, especially come in the winter months in Florida. It's nice to be outside. Right now, it's way too hot. It's like 100 degrees. And I also, have hope to expand the business. We have people that are interested. We had people that were wanted to initially partner with us, but my husband and I wanted to do the first bar and set up the first mode, trials and tribulations through on our own. But there's hopes of expanding and talks about it and maybe even outside of Southwest Florida. So we're very excited about that.
That is so exciting. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of the things with us today. And before I close this out, I know I said I only had two questions, but I realized at the very end that I forgot to ask my all-time favorite question, and it really is the perfect wrap-up question. If I could give you a magic wand right now, and it could solve any problem that, even if it's not like a problem, even if it's just something to make something a little easier, a little bit more delightful or ridiculous, and it would just make your kava bar life so much more delightful. What would that be?
So I would almost like a database or like an Angie's List for products made by consumers that kava bars can frequent. So like there's like a whole, like database that you can go to if you're looking for a new seltzer company. Here's a list of all of them, and then even like users can rate them. I think that would be really cool, sort of like a rate my professor, like we saw uh a big spike of that when like the late 2000s for college professors where you could rate them and write about them. I think that would be really cool for knowing who to work with in the industry. Granted, there would have to be some, checks and balances to make sure no one's just like throwing dirt on people's names, but it would be really nice to have like a concise, complete list of where we can buy products from.
Ooh, that's interesting. And I love that you mention it because I think I've got some fun things in the works that I'll be able to share that'll help with that little tidbit there. So thank you so much for telling us about your wish. And I think it is really cool because again, in the spirit of collaboration, which I feel if there's a title to this episode, it would be that, you know, finding a way to connect us in a way that's fruitful, that is functional, that is for the betterment of everybody involved is really all that we want to do. So, anybody out there who is listening, if you are inspired by anything that you've heard today, please know that, again, this industry is in the booming process. There's so much room for everybody. There's so many people that want to work with more people, want to see more products on the market. So, if you have any questions, any curiosities have popped up, please feel free to send an email to hello@marinamars.com. Whether those questions or comments are aimed at myself or Ashley, I will make sure that they are answered in one way or another. Thank you so much again for being here, Ashley. It really means the world to me and our listeners.
And thank you so much for having us small business owners like myself come on here and be able to, talk to prospective bar owners or people already in the industry. You really give us a voice, and you're trying to do some good work out there for everyone involved. So I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you too, Ashley. I can't wait until our super mega ultra Florida road trip will take, and we'll make sure to stop by your bar.
Sounds great. Thank you again.
Yay! As always, everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your week. And if you need anything, you just let me know.